Hello, Bigfoot enthusiast. Scott here from Squatch America.
And Hannah, domestic goddess, chief cook, and doggy mama. And Patty, this freaking doggy mama here got woken up by the doggy at 4:26 this morning. And so pardon me if I'm a little snoozy tonight. I'm ready to go to bed.
And not happy with the dog.
She's been a little pill today, yes.
So
anyway.
I just put my phone on. That's what I was doing. All right. Yeah, we're coming to you live from where are we at? Apache Junction, Arizona.
And guess what? It's chilly here too. What is the deal?
Well, it's been nice during the day.
Yeah, about 60 degrees.
So
anyway.
Anywho, we got a great interview and I want to get right into it today. So
you forgot the thing.
What thing?
The intro.
Oh, play. All right. So hi, everybody that's in here. Scott Dunbar, Scott Goebel, both the Scotts.
Renee, Greg, would you? Because
Greg, what part of Idaho are you from?
You've probably told us, but that means nothing. So Cappy's here, Galen's here, and in first place for first in the room is Doc Ock. Thank you very much.
Yes, and hi, Locke and Charles.
Did we ever figure out what happened to Uncle Bones?
Yes, I figured it out.
What did you figure out?
He got, somebody banned him, but I unbanned him.
Where did you find that? We were scouring our settings.
It was crazy. It was in a list of that Mr. Burgos, whatever. All right, folks. So tonight we have.
So let Uncle Bones know that we fixed it.
I did yesterday on somebody else's.
Okay, got you.
So.
Hey, Kyle, say hi to Mantra if she's not listening.
All right. Are you ready?
I don't know. I'm tired. Okay. I'm just sad that I can't have any more coffee after this.
I know. All right, folks. So tonight we're having an interview with
someone that Ben will remember.
Yep. Ben met him. But what's really great is we met him, and fantastic guy. He's an author, a Bigfooter,
just an all-around stand-up guy.
Stand-up guy. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Ranger Rob, which is actually Robert Leitermam. Hi, Rob.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great.
Hey, I have a question. Does anyone remember Ranger Rick?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
Okay, I wish he was still around.
Yeah.
All right, so I won't interrupt anymore.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say this first because you brought it up. The ranger I replaced at Grizzly Creek Redwood State Park, his name was Rick, and his nickname was Ranger Rick. So just
okay. So you knew the actual Ranger Rick.
I knew an actual Ranger Rick, not a raccoon in a cartoon or whatever, but the actual.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about that. So you're a ranger.
Yeah.
Okay. Where at mostly, or all over?
Well, kind of all over. Mostly California. When I first started, after college, I doing seasonal jobs. I worked kind of like a seasonal ranger, but not really the ranger, but park aides at San Jacinto and Anza Borrego, and then after I graduated from Humboldt State, I got my first gig, and I started at Pismo Dunes as a state ranger. Did that a couple of years, then went to a place called Allensworth State Historic Park for a couple of years there. And then I went to a place called Big Sur. You probably never heard of it, but I was there for about 4 years, and it's pretty neat assignment. And then after that, I went back to the Central Valley, stayed at Hatfield Park, which is the Great Valley Grassland area there. And then after that, we headed over to Richardson Grove, which is in Humboldt County. It's like southern Humboldt County. Did that a couple of years there, and then went to Humboldt Redwoods for a couple, then went to Grizzly Creek for about 10 plus, then back to Humboldt for the rest of my assignments, and then I retired 2014. But before all that started, I worked seasonal for the National Park Service at Cradle Lake.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the only state park, the only national park in Oregon. All the ones are monuments and stuff. But yeah, that was a pretty interesting assignment.
Yeah. In fact, we just
like 3 months ago.
just like 3 months ago had a whole bunch of Bigfoot type stuff happen to us, and we were up by Diamond Lake, which is not
Oh,
too far
yeah.
from Crater Lake.
It's just north. Yeah.
Yeah, we were up in a place called
Wendigo Pass.
Wendigo Pass. So,
Did you hear anything while you were there?
yeah,
Heck yes.
we did.
Heard stuff, saw stuff, had stuff thrown, pushed over. It was an active week.
I wonder why they call it Wendigo Pass. Do you know?
I don't know. Yeah, it's just odd to me.
Hey, maybe maybe he could tell us about the train situation.
Yeah.
There were even trains on our sound.
This is weird.
Interesting.
We had an audio thing running all night, of course, and we actually picked up the sound of train whistles, and I could hear the clickety clack. But we were in Wendigo Pass, and I think the nearest train is like 30 miles away. You know, so.
Well, I when I was working at Anzo Brago for 3 months before I got it picked up permanent, I was at a place called because memory, it's just out of Brago Springs. It's the Tamarisk Campground. It's right off S3 and the main highway going through it. And I was there. Well, the camp hosts were gone. I was there. This is like December. It's one of those quiet nights where sound goes forever. And I was staying in a single wide mobile home on the backside near the campfire center. And the hosts were there, usually there, but they took a few days off. So it's just me. And you're talking about hearing trains, but this is wagons. So I was sitting there and I was like reading, and then I used to like to play the Wyndham Hill brand music, you know, all that acoustics.
New agey stuff. Yes. My kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's actually 2 thumbs up on that one. But so I was sitting there and I had the light on inside, and then I kept hearing this sound, would sound like squeaky wheels, chains, and wood rubbing together. And I'm like, what? And so I poked my head out, and it's all black outside because it was dark, and it was like in the desert in December, but still slightly overcast. And I can hear it. And it's taking my eyes a little while to adjust because I was in the bright trailer, and I can hear it, and I can put my finger right on it because where I was, there's a wash called San Felipe Wash, and on the backside of it, I want to say Highway 70, I can't remember now, but it was one of the major highway, like you're heading over to Salton Sea, and behind it was this big cliff face, and all the sounds refracted off of it. So I'm standing out there, squinting my eyes, looking, and I can't see anything, but my eyes are slowly adjusting. But what I hear is the sounds like chains being moving around. It sounds like a squeaky wagon going, you know, it's moving. And then I hear the sound of, it sound like metal rims of the wagon wheels going over a road. And it was right. I couldn't see anything. And it kind of freaked me out a little bit. So I kind of went back inside, shut the door, turned my music up, but I still heard it. And eventually it just faded because I was standing there one time, you can just follow it as it goes by. And so I was curious. So I did some research on it, looked up did a little homework because I had nothing else better to do because nobody else is there but me and on the visitors. And there was this story about this runaway stage that used to go through San Felipe Wash, and people would report it. And Velocito Station is near Sisters Crossing where 4 roads would meet. And there's supposed to be a lady that was on that stage, and she died. So they buried her in a wedding dress at that place. But anyhow, it's the sound of a wagon that is very distinct. Just like you said, you heard the trains. And I don't know what to tell you on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, me either.
It's just weirdo wackadoodle stuff. Now, I tell you what, I think we might have to think twice before going back there.
Yeah. No, we're going back.
I know. So, hey, before we continue, hi, everyone who has wandered in. We got Raptor and Stacy Main, Charles M. Caught alive. And he's asking if our home base is in Texas. Not yet. We're working on that, though.
Yeah.
Right now, our home base is all over.
Yeah.
So.
But technically, we live in South Dakota.
Yes, for tax purposes.
For tax purposes.
Okay.
But okay. So.
What got you in?
What got you into the Bigfoot thing?
Well, as a kid, you always have an interest in monsters. Now, I have to give my dad a lot more credit because he used to like to watch the UFO stuff and crazy stuff all the time, and he was kind of interested a little bit, but he didn't really preach it to us. Is that when your dad watches a show, then guess what? You get to watch it too. And
Yeah.
yeah, and it was kind of the little taste of it there, but it wasn't until I started, into college, started focusing heavy on it. But I think if you can just pick one thing in my life that kind of turns your heads, I think it was the Legend of Bogey Creek movie. And we went to it in the drive-in, and I had to sit through that. And I think right after the scene when the guy goes to take a dump in the toilet and something breaks through the screen window and reaches for him,
Yeah.
and he runs down with his pants down. Well, much soon after that, I had to go pee. And if you remember the old drive-in movie theaters, for people who don't know what that is, it's a place that's usually asphalt. And you got little berms, and you have little posts with speakers on them. And you drive up and you actually park there. And you put the speaker in and you turn up the volume. And then you watch the screen that's miles away through your front windshield. Or the back of your pickup truck if you have a date. But anyhow, so that's kind of how that part works. And so I had to go to the bathroom to use it. And that was a tough journey all the way down there. But anyhow, so that kind of got the initial start of thinking about there's something weird going on here. And I didn't take it really seriously until probably college. I should have been studying my curriculum that I graduated for or with. But I spent time in just looking up, information, because I went to Humboldt State, and the third floor at Humboldt was the archival room, and it had all the old information in it. You couldn't take it away, but you can actually sit there and read it. So I did some reading in, and then I actually found a bunch of cards I had. Evidently, instead of studying for my subject matter, I was keeping notes on the Bigfoot stuff for some reason. So I had a bunch of index cards that I discovered I still had in a box. And then after I graduated, and then I went to work as a park ranger. One of our jobs was interpretation. So when I eventually made it up to the Humboldt Redwoods area and the Richardson Grove area, which is in Humboldt County, I started to put together a campfire presentation, which includes copies of tabloid magazines, a little tongue-in-cheek exercise of trying to get people to laugh a little bit. And then I had a slide presentation, and I outlined it so I could tell the basic history of kind of how things went. So in order to do that, you had to do a little bit of homework. So I did that for a few years. And then one day I was working at Humboldt Redwoods, and it was, I'd say it was Labor Day weekend. And if you're familiar with parks, sounds like you guys are living pretty much traveling around, that the busiest days for a lot of people everywhere tends to be Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July-ish. And so here comes John Freitas. He's one of the guys who got me into this mess. Thanks, John. And got me all started with it. Is he showed up at our office, or kind of a sector office. He introduced himself as an investigator from Del Norte County. And he proceeded to tell us how he was with this BFR group that was out researching a sighting in the park. And then I learned a little bit about that. And then at the last thing was, by the way, we have this big old speaker. It's the speaker that goes on a ship. In case you're wondering what it looks like, if you ever been to the Bigfoot Museum or the China Flat Museum in Willow Creek, it's one of them that got sitting in there. It says BFRO on it. Anyhow, he had it in the back of his pickup truck, and he wanted to drive around and broadcast alleged Bigfoot calls. And I found out later that one of Freitas' specialty was the call blasting. And he did a lot of work with that. And so I said, well, actually, you can't do it here, but here you can go over to somebody else's place and do it over there. So I sent him a 36. And after that, I eventually, I think that was back in the Labor Day. So I waited a couple of weeks because we were so busy, and I wanted to go take a look at the so-called alleged Bigfoot sighting. So I noticed on the BFRO, I think Fred sent me a connection to it. And on this BFRO thing, it said that they had a whole write-up of what they did and the porcupine quills they found and whatever. And so this whole write-up about this guy was with this kid. He was staying at the Burlington campground. He was on a river trail. He was walking along. His kid's shoe come untied. And so he told his kid tie his shoe. And while he's standing there, he's kind of looking around waiting. And he looks up this hill. and he sees what looks like a naked individual from waist up, all covered with hair, pacing back and forth between some trees, stops, starts scratching his back. And then about that time, Dad said, let's go. They left. Within 5 minutes, they come back. They saw nothing. So then they reported it on the BFRO. And that's how Freitas got a hold of it. And that's how they went to investigate it. So on September 23rd of 1999, this is the magic date for me. That's when they give you this red pill or this blue pill. Which one you want. Is I decided to go out and take one of my parkades with me, since she was actually went to a Brown School of Tracking at the New Jersey Pinelands, so the barren place, you know. Yeah. So I took some tracking. So she was a good tracker, and I learned a lot from her. So she was my teacher for that. But I took her with me, and we went and tried to find the location based on the photograph, and we did. And from standing on the trail looking up the hill, we matched the location. We went up there, and I found a cigarette butt. Compliments of Mr. Freitas. I found a strap of a camera sitting there, and then there was a stump, which is a redwood stump. It had moss growing on it, and she had stayed down. She looked up until I was there. She goes, "Yeah, you're in the right place." So then we went up to take a look, and the story was that it was walking back and forth and rubbing its back against this stump. Well, it's an old redwood stump. We got up there, it was a redwood burnt stump that had moss growing on it. And if you took your finger and just scratched it, you'd take all of it off. So you would think that if this was something, an object of something scratching its back against it, you would see that some of the moss would have been rubbed off. And there wasn't. And so, but yet there was a camera strap, and yet there was a cigarette butt. And you're like, there's got to be more to this. So I look over to my left, which is phone is totally opposite. So I have to just pretend like I'm looking to my left, but looking right. And when I looked over there, looks like it was like almost like a pathway. But anybody who's been in the redwood areas, about August, the redwood trees replace a lot of their fronds, so they drop them down. And during the next few weeks, it's litter everywhere. It gets blown out by the winds that pick up. And yeah, so you couldn't see any trail. There's no tracks, but yet there was a place where something could have moved. And then it goes right over to the section over there. And it happens to be these 3 redwood trees about 1 foot in diameter. And they're kind of growing close together. And it kind of almost stops there. So I'm looking at this, and the bottom part of this redwood tree, about 1 foot down, you can see that the younger redwood trees have really soft bark. So it was folded down, and about 6 foot up is where it wasn't folded down anymore. So to me, something was rubbing against that for anywhere from 1 foot to 6 foot up against this tree. So going back to the story of something walking back and forth, rubbing its back on a stump, in reality, it most likely was rubbing its back on that tree that was over that way. And so we took pictures and everything. So my partner didn't want to be photographed doing any of this stuff, because she actually wants to have a career someday. So and I wanted to document it. So I decided that well, I will post for it. So I stood in front of the redwood tree. Can't see this. My hands out to my sides. I'm wearing my Stetson because they like this too. And I'm standing in front of the tree, and she takes some pictures. And then I take pictures of the tree. I take pictures of a few other things. And then I decided to write it up and send it back to them and tell them they were wrong. They picked the wrong spot. Yeah, they didn't do they had to do the diligence properly. So I write it up. I don't submit it to the park because, you know, I got more important things to do, as they would tell me. And so I submitted it to the BFRO, and just to let them know that, by the way, you missed this. And within a, I think I forget it, you know, back when the computers first came out, you know, when they used to go when you tried to download something. And that's how I was doing my research. That's how I was doing my research for my interpreter programs on that late at night and stuff while things slowed up. So I sent an email over to I don't remember if it was Freitas, but somehow I got the Matt Moneymaker. He was the CEO for the BFRO, and I got contacted pretty quick from him. He goes, "Hey, great article. How would you like to be a curator for the BFRO?" And I'm like, "What's a curator do?" And it's like, you know, we work like a museum. I mean, I have a job. Thank you. And he goes, no, you people can go to you and you can contact them, you can investigate reports. Like, and I got to thinking, I go, that was kind of fun what we did up there on the hillside. I guess I could do that, but I can't go around the world doing it. You know, I just do it if somebody locally says, hey, I saw this, and I can swing by and take a look at it. Anyhow, so I said, sure. So that was in 1999 of probably November 1999. And then that's when I met Bobo. He called me up and says, hey, dude, he called me the Bigfoot Ranger. And that's how my label's been. I guess that's it. You're the Bigfoot Ranger. So that's how I kind of got started. I met Bobo, and I met other people in the BFRO, in which John Farias was a member. And I'm surprised how many people were members of the BFRO back in the day, because BFRO started by Matt Moneymaker in 1994, I want to say. And here I am in 1999 being offered a position because I happen to be a law enforcement park ranger. So it adds credibility to what his agenda is going to be. But I thought it was kind of interesting. So I wrote that article. I said, yes, started doing follow-ups. And I'm going to fast forward just a little bit of window. After I wrote this article, Matt liked it so much, evidently, that he put it out. And then after that happened, you know, when you write something and the people always have an opinion about it. Yeah. And then sometimes their opinion does matter to somebody. And so what happened was this guy complained and to one of the rangers up in the supervising ranger up north at Patrick's Point. And of course, he got a hold of my supervisor at Humboldt Redwoods. And then I got this nice little piece of paper that says cease and desist, because I was using state time to investigate Bigfoot activity. In reality, I was just following up on what people were doing in the park unit. And I did write that article on my own time, I did use pictures of myself. Anyhow, so I had to cease and desist. And then one of the other rangers I work with, I think he was trying to help, but anyhow, he read the article too. He didn't find anything wrong with it. So he put it on the supervisor's desk. So now when I went to go see him, I look on his desk and there's the whole article I just wrote sitting there face up. And anyhow, so I had to cease and desist. And then he found nothing wrong, but I was still not supposed to use the state to do my research, to do an interpretive program that was sanctioned by part of our job description, which was interpretation. Anyhow, things got better. I got to do it again. But the interesting part was 9 months later, there's a show called Real Scary Stories. I believe that's the name. Anyhow, they were looking for somebody to say in a uniform, how convenient that Robert wears one, somebody in a uniform to say that Bigfoot exists. And so I got the call to go do it. And my job was to clean my car, drive all the way to interviewed by this film crew, but I can only say or answer questions according to the list that they had somebody look at, which I have no idea what's on this list. Anyhow, but I have an idea what they would ask. Anyhow, so I show up there, and this is one of those beautiful days where the sun's setting. Your car is a white pickup truck. It's shining. The orange rays are starting to reflect off your white car. You're wearing your Stetson like you're supposed to. You're in the driver's seat of your car, and you're half hanging out the window, and they start asking you these questions. And not a single one of those questions was on a list that I can answer. So I kept saying, I can't answer that. Oh, I can't answer that. I'm sorry, I can't answer. I finally said, did you get that list? Well, we don't got it. Anyhow, so I was out, you're out. So I got to watch this other gentleman. He's passed away since then, but he had a cast. And in this cast were some hair fibers. And he was sitting there. He used to keep his head shaved pretty well. And he was sitting there. And the sun was not shining off his head or anything, but the sun was setting. He was holding this white cast. It was beautiful. And in this white cast were hair fibers. They were filming it. And he's telling the story about it. And he got to be on the show for Real Scary Stories. I did not. But I did get a little mini vacation. I got to drive there for 2 hours. And then soon after that, I guess I got more involved with a bunch of other things. And eventually I got involved in the BFRO with doing expeditions. And then that was fun. And then I got involved with doing some videography work, because during the expeditions that I was helping with, which is a whole bunch, I guess I have to say the first BFR expedition in 2004 that was offered to the public. It was in May. I got a chance to organize that part of it, which is kind of fun. And there goes the names. The Sierra Sound guys, Barry and you got to help me with this one.
Oh, the Sierra
Al
Sounds?
Barry.
Oh, Ron.
Ron
Yes,
Moorhead.
Al Barry and Ron Moorhead. Thank you. Once you're over 60, you got to write notes. But anyhow,
Yes.
and I got to meet those guys. And it was kind of cool. I got to meet them, and one of the things was I signed them up for talking about the Sierra Sounds, and then I had Kathy Moskowitz of Strain signed her up for investigation evidence. I don't remember if I signed myself up for tracking or not. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. But Matt was there. A lot of the players were there. Anyhow, so that was kind of cool. So I got to do that, and then fast forward to later on in the expeditions. I think about 2000 and I want to say about 2008. What the BFR used to do is they would have access to the video equipment. Eventually, we got the infrared, the night vision, the Gen 3 night vision attachments on the cameras to help it at night. Cool. My dad loved cameras. He filmed us all the time. He was into that kind of thing. So I guess apples don't fall very far. But I was really into using the cameras. And on the expeditions, I would film everybody. Because I felt instead of using the cameras to document the evidence, which we were using to do it with, how about filming the people collecting the evidence? Because there's a unique story. So I got my own camera. I got my own Gen 3 attachment. You know, I got my compliments of Matt and Wally Hersham. And then eventually I got a bunch of Reconyx cameras. And those were pretty expensive back then. So I went crazy with those. Batteries, cameras, position, compliments of Wally Hersham as well. He was kind of like a sponsor thing for that. And so then I got all the stuff. And then Matt tried to convince me, he goes, Robert, why don't you do your own editing and video editing? And that's like me, like working with you guys earlier, trying to get my phone to work right, you know. So editing was a journey for me. And I got pretty decent at it. So next thing you know, 120 videos later, you know, that was the thing. And then one of those missions I was working on was trying to find the film site, which is the book I wrote about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Bluff Creek Project group. There you go.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
How come your pages aren't worn?
because mine is actually a signed copy, and I don't want to ruin it.
Ooh, great. Yeah, I signed my own copy too.
Did you?
You know what?
There you go.
You know what? I just bought a yoga book that's twice this size.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
But mine's actually signed by you and
did the Kipster?
And Kip Morrill.
Cool. Yeah. That was from Beachfoot, I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's get into this.
Yeah.
We got to do a little quick commercial break, and then we're going to get into the book. How's that sound?
All right.
All right. So, folks, I just wanted to say we have a new
channel
sponsor, and here we go.
Hello, Bigfoot enthusiasts. Hannah here from Squatch America, and we want to welcome you to Cloudcroft, New Mexico, where mystery meets adventure. Introducing the Bigfoot Encounter Museum, the ultimate destination for all cryptozoology enthusiasts and adventure seekers. Step into a world shrouded in legend and intrigue, where the mysterious stories of Bigfoot come to life. Our museum is a treasure trove of artifacts, exhibits, and interactive displays that delve into the fascinating history and folklore surrounding this legendary creature. Get ready to embark on an immersive journey through time, exploring the captivating tales of eyewitness accounts, footprint casts, compelling documentaries, and so much more. You'll be amazed as you unravel the mysteries and evidence surrounding this elusive and enigmatic creature. Whether you're a skeptic or a true believer, the Bigfoot Encounter Museum in Cloudcroft, New Mexico promises an unforgettable adventure for all ages. Come and create lasting memories as you immerse yourself in the world of Bigfoot lore. Plan your visit today and uncover the secrets of Bigfoot at the Cloudcroft Bigfoot Encounter Museum. Your journey into the unknown awaits. Cloudcroft Bigfoot Encounter Museum. Discover the legend, experience the mystery. As we travel and search for Bigfoot, we use a lot of equipment that uses the internet to operate. Also, in our town hall meetings and live streams, we need a reliable connection. We use Nomad Internet. There's a link and discount code below, so join us and have internet access on the go.
All right. So we're talking with Robert Leitermam,
Author of
the Bluff. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Author of the Bluff Creek Project. He does not understand tag.
All right.
Are we back?
Yeah, I think so.
Are we back? Okay, that was weird. So we got, come on, Mr. Musk, you are letting me down tonight because we are on our Starlink tonight.
Yeah.
Anyway, wouldn't it be creepy if we spoke in sync the whole night?
That would be weird.
You keep trying.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it looks like Robert's locked up for a second.
So why don't we go back and tell them all about Cloudcroft?
Oh, he's back.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
Okay, there we go. All right. So
Technology is great. until
this
it's
book,
not.
and I saw your presentation up close and personal, and it was fantastic. Now, here's something that you folks may not know, but there's been 3 or 4 Bluff Creek sites found, right? So, Robert, could you explain why?
Sure. It was because it was too boring to have just one. You know, you got to have a controversy. You got to make sure it's going to be good. Have a lot of conflict. No, the reason that we ended up with about 4 of those different sites, 5 of those, is because, well, I guess I should start with the basic story first to kind of lay it down. So when in 2007, I talked to Steven Stroyford during, I think it was the 45th anniversary. I think it was. I'll do the math to be right, but anyhow. So Daniel Preston was the guest speaker, and that in 2003, I was a speaker at the symposium, but I was the Friday lunch speaker. I got to do the same presentation I used to do for the park lunch sign and kind of watch the show, which is kind of cool. I didn't know, but I was seeing this guy named Christopher Murphy, and I got a chance to see his book, his 2004 book, I guess. I had this plans for it there, and anyhow, it was kind of cool. So I got to meet some of the players, and eventually, after that, 2007 rolls around, and I'm dealing with Steven Stroyford, and he was for Bigfoot books in Willow Creek. Anyhow, so he was there, and he was talking about this location of a film site not being able to be found, and in 2003 it came to head where it's like all the people who knew something show up in a bunch of cars, and they all get parked. They all jump out, and they all point in different directions as to where little birds. They all point in different directions to where the site's supposed to be, and that's when the first controversy went in. There are people who are pretty confident in themselves; they weren't quite right. A lot of people forgotten because time went by, and there's a few people who kind of had an idea, but they needed it to be confirmed. So as time goes by, in 2003, the site was so overgrown that even the people who knew were having difficulty locating where it was. So add a few more years to that. And in 2010, when we decided to go look for it, it was a challenge for us. So one of the things is when you start over in a research thing is if you take what everybody else does, then you're just going to repeat their mistakes. So if you want to not have mistakes right up front, is you start over doing a bunch of research and start figuring things out. Go to the original sources of information. So for me, Stephen Stroyford was one of the original sources, because when we decided to do this project, it was Ian Carton and it was Stephen Stroyford, and those were the two guys who were going to go find the film site that was misplaced. My job was to record them doing it. Because remember, I talked about running around with a camera and a Gen 3 night vision scope and learn how to edit stuff, and it was kind of cool to interview people and then edit it all out. So that was my plan to do in 2010. So when I first started doing the interviews, and it was at Stephen's Bigfoot Big Store, and he would use his computer like a PowerPoint, and everything you needed to know is like right there, and it was this all the way through it. So I was learning so much. I go, this is kind of cool learning about this, because originally I didn't care. It's just a place where people go, a bunch of people are into it a little too much. They go up there on October 20th. And they just go do whatever they do. I'm not going to be one of those guys. I'm not going to be one of those guys who are going to show up at Area 51, at a certain time. I'm just not going to do it. Anyhow, after talking to Stephen and having him, well, actually, he did all the talking. I just asked questions. But after that day, I was supposed to go out in the field and record Ian for these 5 sites. So what I learned was that there were 5 potential sites. Each one had a form of merit. And their job was to try to go through them and decide which ones were not the exact site. And so you had to do elimination based on facts, common sense, and geographic locations, and a bunch of other factors. So anyhow, I had a few days by myself to go up and look all over the place and go for it, because he told me where they were. So I got a chance to try to go find them. And it got to a point where they all looked to me like just this gravel bar with trees on it. I don't see how they can tell the difference. But that was the first thing. And it was a few days in that of the Bluff Creek project. When I first started doing the project, it was the Bluff Creek film site project. And then after the fact, it got modified to the Bluff Creek project, because evidently I'm very wordy. I like using a lot of words, and some people like to keep less words. But anyhow, so our group is Bluff Creek Project. This where saying one thing, Ian was saying another, and you constantly had this disagreement and then agreement and then some disagreements. And I'm like watching a ping pong match, kind of back and forth. So finally I started putting my 2 cents in, and then I become at the point Ian had so much going on in his life that he had to pull back, and it left Stephen and myself. So I needed another person to do anything. And at this point along the progression, we had spent, almost the whole, we spent the first year together, and now we're in 2011, retaking over right where we left off, trying to, again, we've narrowed it down, because we've eliminated that MK Davis's site. It's too far downriver. It doesn't have the artifacts that are needed, which included stumps in the proper position according to big trees in the background. Direction of north, south, east, and west could have worked. And all these other factors, the distance from the creek, but you needed a bowling alley, which is a sharp turn that wasn't there. And there's a bunch of other factors that weren't there, but that was the first one. We kind of, in the back of my mind, since I spent that whole day going zigzagging back and forth and found out they were not there, it was off my Christmas list pretty quick. And then you had that one, the Peter Byrne location, which happens to be where, when you used to be able to drive down, now you have to walk past the berm, 12 and 13H. It's that big open area you come to, and that's where the bat box is to be, the Peter Byrne site. Reason being is we had talked to some people who said, yeah, Peter Byrne took them there and showed them the big tree. And there's a couple of big trees there, but it's not this place. And it doesn't match the north-south axis. It doesn't match the angle of the bowling alley. It doesn't match a lot of factors. But it matches the old Titmus map pretty good, which it was a kind of deceiving from step one. Then down, it's a and through. So it's a big wide area, and that was called, we called it the Gulch, but we also called it AKA the Christopher Murphy site, because in some of his book material, he had marked that location on it, on his books as being the site. But in reality, in the book, it's up the side of the hill. But he's never really been. He probably was down there that day, but I think he was a little confused exactly where it was, and he might have asked somebody else for information, and they gave him information that wasn't correct, and so that became his site. And then, of course, Daniel Perez, he wasn't so sure either. He thought it was a little different places. So the reason we chose that location, because we have photographic evidence of him there. Even in 2003, they were making a movie. They interviewed Matt and Gimlin and Perez. And Perez was standing on this one spot saying, that wasn't it. Daniel Perez site. The Brackman site, because Steve had put out a bunch of feeders out there and says, people, wherever you think your film site is, please send us a map so we can confirm where your locations are. The only map he got back was from Cliff Brackman, and so it became the Brackman site. And so those were our 5 sites. And by 2011, we had narrowed it down to the Brackman site, and it just had so many factors in it that just made sense. Like, it had the bowling alley to the side, it had the big turn, the S turn in front, it had the stumps, and we first started doing the research in 2011, we couldn't find the stumps. We eventually found big trees in the background, but it was all overgrown. You had to crawl through a lot of that, and it's not how it used to be in the where Bob is, Roger is filming, and then Patty does one of these look over the shoulders, and then it's 352. So that was the classic for let's go find the site based on that photograph. And a lot of people were taking the trees in the background and when you get there and it's overgrown, it's really hard to see stumps, so you don't use them. You try to find the trees. And so while we went through it, is we decided that the only way to know for sure would be to use some math. And I didn't realize there was even math in art, and I wasn't good at it. But if you use lat longs, south, east on them, you can actually create a square at 30 foot. And then you can mark those squares with little flags in each corner. And then you can do the whole gravel bar. And then on top of that, you can also artifacts that was the DeHenden 1971 overview shot that he did from the hillside. So we were able to take that shot, angle it back down to the kind of the match, and lay it down, and then see those artifacts in there, and then draw them in. And then once I did that, this is towards the 2011. Once that was done, you could take the DeHenden drawing and line them up and lay them side by side, and you could that you can't see today, but some of it's decaying material, some of it's the alders are all gone, but they're stumps and they're located in a certain position. So it's not 100% perfect, but we didn't need 100% perfect. We needed like 70%. We just needed the geographically, and it was. And I don't want to forget. I hate when I start forgetting names of that. But Rowdy Kelly was our estimate. So on that day when we started doing the map, he volunteered, and we worked him to death. But we worked as a team, and we were able to get the grid map almost completed. And I had to come back later to finish it. But after that moment, he kind of told himself he didn't want to come back there again and be part of this process. But I think he also realized how fulfilling it was there compass sandbar, and you're standing, and after you're scooping over and crawling through and trimming brush so you can have a tunnel to do a compass bearing, you get to the end, there's this big old maple tree sitting there. It happens to have a little crook in it that looks like the one in the photograph. And then right next to it is this big old fir tree that's got like these woodpecker potholes in it. And then you look off to your right, there's another fir tree. And then there's a snag that's broken off the top. And then there's a big fir tree that has a branch tree. Then you have two more at the end, and you get I think to take the blue pill the second round. I wanted to make sure I was absolutely correct before I said yes. So in October of 2011, everybody but me was saying, and I'm saying, I want to be sure because I don't want to be that guy who is wrong, who puts his reputation online, and then you find out saying, oh no, I'm still right. And you know, there are people that still hold fast to their sites locations because they don't want to admit that they've been wrong. And if they're wrong with that, then what else are they wrong with? So if people are so quick to point out faults, not to try to generate some. But anyhow, that's the Reader's Digest version of that. And to add a little bit extra to that, there's also, we put cameras up, some game cameras, because we were curious to see what's passing through that area. And in the process of putting game cameras up, we were able to identify coaches. But I got to see it in 2007 when I did my bike ride down there with a buddy of mine. Scared the crap. And then I saw it again, what it was. And before I forget, I also want to say that Bobo Fay was pretty much right where he thought it was, and so was Cliff Brackman. Because many years ago, they took me and showed me some big trees in the background, and we think this is it. And there wasn't any big trees that would match that. What we did as a project is we confirmed what some of the people thought, or in this case, knew. And now they're better than new. They're now knowers. And so we as a group got credit for rediscovering it, but we had help. We had a lot of people trying to help us and a lot of people trying not to help us. You kind of lose them a little bit in the process, but then they show up again after it's all done. But it was nice. And if I had to do it all over again, I probably would do it the same way, but I think I would get a lot more help because one of the hardest things was trying to keep everything straight and close that area down for like anywhere from 7 to 8 months a year because of the Port Orford root rot. It's a fungus that's destroying them, or a virus. And so there's closures, so you don't have access. So our windows were small, and we wanted to get it done. And it took us about 2 years. We credit up to 3, but 2 years. But in 2012, we also took Bill Munns down there and Daniel Perez to show them exactly where the site was. Kind of because I met him a while back. I liked him. He seems to be pretty open, funny. So we took him down there, got all the stuff down there. And when we arrived on the site, we walked up there. It's like we stopped at this magical line just before he got to the big trees. And I go, you want to lead the rest of the way? Because you could tell he was totally focused. You know, he wasn't talking much. He'd give it like 2-word answers. So we let him go. We followed him in. He followed our trail. He followed our flags. He got there and he stood there and he stood staring at these trees in the background. And he had this paperwork in his hands. He's looking at paper. He's looking at paperwork, looking at trees. And next thing you know, he's got this smile. He goes all the way to here. He's got the biggest grin on his face. And he wanders off to the right because he's looking for the Lauren Hardy tree, he calls. And those were his ace in the hole, he said. So he's out there for probably 10 minutes. And we're telling stories, you know, making fun of each other, having a great time. And he comes back, same smile. He goes, "This is the place." So that was kind of cool to really make his day with that.
That's awesome. So for people who don't know who Bill Munns is, he wrote a little book called When Roger Met Patty, and he did all the research on the film itself.
Yeah.
So.
Speaking of Bill Munns, would that be a recommendation for Charles?
Yes, it would.
So Charles, check out the book When Roger Met Patty by Bill Munns.
Yeah.
I've read bits of, yeah, not much of it, but anyway, that's to answer your question. So Robert, you had some. Raptor has a question.
Okay, this one.
Yeah, that one. Because there have been some internet glitches, and it is what it is. We can only do what we can do with the signal we have. Who were you talking about with the paperwork? You're talking about paperwork.
And type of
Yep. I think we lost you there for a minute, buddy.
Still, hold on. He'll catch up in a sec.
Yes, Robert lives out in the backwoods.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. Well, there was the paperwork originally that Bill Munns would carry around. That's his research stuff, so he could confirm with himself when he got to the film site. Now, if it's earlier paperwork, when Steven Stroyford has his PowerPoint that I use for guiding, and we're carrying notes all the time, trying to make notes. And we did our grid work. We had to create little squares of 30 foot in size based on a north line and an east-west line. And then we drew in the artifacts. So I had to walk around drawing in artifacts in every little square so I could rematch it up with the DeHenden 1971 overview that DeHenden took. And that's how we're able to do that.
So it sounds like when you're talking about paperwork, you're talking about a collection of field notes that you guys were actively taking and comparing with other field notes.
Correct.
Okay. Field notes.
Yep. So folks, if you buy the book, there's a lot of pictures in here of all these notes.
So yeah, great. And we did drop earlier. We dropped in the comments. We dropped a link to the book. Please, you can. It won't do that. You can go right on over to Amazon and purchase your very own copy. And actually, for an almost 600-page book. Is this actually going to paste for me? Yes. Okay. For an almost 600-page book, it's a very decent price. You can go buy that, and it will keep you reading for quite some time.
Yeah. What people say about the book, it's always better when somebody else says it versus me. But the whole point is, who needs another book about Bigfoot, right? But I just, especially about the film site, I just thought it'd be nice to make it a little bit different. So I put in a bunch of like a natural cultural history stuff in between, little adventure stories of myself and what I experienced. I had some of the other members of the team do some submissions of articles. Stephen wrote the introduction, the 12-page introduction. One of the reasons that book didn't come out sooner because I was still waiting for Stephen's 12-page introduction. So he just wanted to make sure he got it right. And so it was like a group effort. And even though my name's on here, I had a lot of support from the team members, and the fun part about it is Stephen did all the editing for it. That was one of his big things. And so I didn't have to go to an editor that's going to tell me you have too many pictures, because I sat back with Perez and he told me you have too many pictures when he first saw it. I go, I only have 200 pictures. What do you mean there's too many pictures in here?
Yeah.
Obviously, he didn't understand today's reader, which is greatly afflicted by ADD, and you need lots of pictures and big type.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry about the big type. I was talking to somebody. They say they go.
Lost
or whatever, and then they start looking for pictures, and that's what they do. So that's what I do.
Yep. And nowadays QR codes, so they can pick your phone and watch a video.
Yeah, that's a little too high tech for me to hook that in there, but yeah, it is it's also it's paper, but it's also in ebook format too.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, you
Kindle.
can get the Kindle for actually more than 50% off if you're into that. That tends to be my preferred mode of reading because I don't have enough room on the camper for all the books I want to read.
Yeah.
So I just load them onto my Kindle, and hopefully, you know what? If God says you need to stay alive until you read all the books you bought, I will never die
Oh,
because
there
I
you go.
can't keep up with them. So anyway, we want to apologize to those of you who are struggling. We're sorry about the internet connection. This is what you get when your guest comes from beautiful country away from civilization.
Yeah.
So, but thanks
So,
for hanging in there with us. We've got 3 minutes.
okay. Yeah. And
Oh,
yeah. And after we're done, we'll go out there. I want you to hang on for a second. Okay. But,
yeah.
yeah, you know, I love this area where this is. We actually we didn't get to go to this film site because we were there for the time of year that it was closed off. But we got to hike around the mountains up there where we could go. But Hannah and I both, I was working as an archaeologist for the Miwok tribe in Yosemite National Park for 4 years. We lived in Mariposa in Central California, if you know where Mariposa is.
Who doesn't know where Mariposa is?
So
Anyway,
it doesn't look like he knows where Mariposa is.
said he lived in the Central Valley.
Yeah.
Oh, I know where it is. Yeah, it's right in the western foothills.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like 15 miles from the front gate of Yosemite.
Yosemite.
So
Anyway, get to your point. What was your point?
my point is, yeah, that's kind of like where almost my Bigfoot journey started too, because I was
Your official Bigfoot.
my
journey.
official Bigfoot story because of the Miwok tribe that I was working with. There started filling me in on all their Bigfoot legends, and I would ask them like, so does Bigfoot exist? And they'd look at me like I was stupid. And I was like, yeah. So
And then they would ignore him for a week.
yeah. But
So anyway, it's about time.
it is.
So Robert, thank you so much for coming on. Like we said, after the show, hang tight. We'll have a little bit of chit chat after we go off the air. But we want to inform everyone where we are headed to next.
Oh, yep, I got to do that. So hang on.
All right. So the traveling season is about to begin as if it ever stopped. So first weekend of February, you will find us at the Eugene Boat and Sportsman Show. Next weekend, we will be in Roseburg at another show just like that. Middle of February, we will be in Medford, Oregon, and then the first weekend of March, maybe Robert is close enough, we'll be in Anderson, California. At least this half of us will be in Anderson, California. And then middle of March, we will be in Klamath Falls, Oregon. And then after that, we will just continue traveling. We'll be in Forks, Washington, Medellin Falls, Baker City. Mark your calendars now. 3rd Annual Blue Mountain Bigfoot Festival, Baker City, Oregon, June 22 to the 23.
Yep.
That was not quite English, but I've been struggling all day.
All right, folks. So thanks for hanging out with us tonight. And remember.
Oh, first of all, regardless of the internet quality tonight, please click the like button and make sure you share this with all your friends. We'll get some good shorts out of it. So as always, remember that our job is to investigate the unexplained.
Not to explain the uninvestigated.
So until next week, you keep watching and
we'll keep squatching. Go out and find Bigfoot.
That damn Sasquatch.